Hey, hey, hey. What's up, fam? Tawana in the building. Today is Tuesdays with Tawana. Let's get it. Let's talk about it. Building community, one moment, one Facebook Live, one podcast, one YouTube post at a time. I am your host and curator, Tawana, aka Rev T, in the building. Yeah, I'm always so excited for Tuesday to get here, although we can't see each other face to face physically. I get to experience your energy as you comment. Um, you comment, I'll read your comment, I'll acknowledge your comment. Some of us are, chilling at work or working very hard and just need a minute of some black girl magic in their lives. So they might be listening and not able to comment. So we are going to get started on this day. I welcome you into this space. I welcome you. I see you. I feel your energy, and I am so grateful for you. Hey, Mother Carolyn. Hey, Sister Tanisha. Good to see you. Always grateful to see your beautiful faces in the place. Yeah. Need to take that deep breath. I was thinking as I was preparing, hey Angela, what's up, beautiful? As I was preparing mind, body, and spirit, I just want to make note, and I don't think I've made note of this in quite some time. What's up, Bullock, in the building? Good to see you, sis and classmate. Yes, yes. I was reflecting on, making sure that when we come into this space, although we may talk about some challenging things, that we also offer space for healing or breathing or giving one another tools to move out of this space and into your everyday world. So if there is something that triggers you and you can't find your way out within this half an hour, let me know, send me a message, hit me up publicly, whichever you choose to do, and we will hold space for you for sure, because there's a lot of things going on that can be very triggering. Hi, brother. Larry is in the building, y'all, for show, for show. Very excited to see my brother. What's up, Jackie? Squeaky Barbara in the building. Grace and blessings to you, my queen. What is going on? Yes, good to see all of you. Let me just let y'all pop up on this screen real quick just to show some love. Yes, yes, yes. Love you all dearly. So, today, as you see the ticker go by, one of the things that I do want to talk about are triggers. They're in this day and age, as we evolve, as we grow, as we experience new and different things, what we're realizing, or what I'm realizing, is that we are starting to name some things in our world, to name some things that are happening, to name and honor the feelings that are welling up in us, whether good or not so good. And that's a powerful stance to take, because in the past, other people would say, don't cry, or, don't worry about it, get over it. And in the present moment, right, people still say that. Hey, Mama Lovey, always good to see you from the Mile High. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And sometimes people say that because they don't know what to say. And other people say that because that's how they deal with triggers or things that are upsetting or things that bother them or trouble them. So they just kind of bury it, which becomes layers of trauma, which then causes to react or respond to other people who really have nothing to do with your triggers and your traumas, and you end up taking it out on them, or you actually deal with post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic slave disorder, whichever one you're feeling at the moment, because post-traumatic stress disorder will then trigger those things, and you may fall into what I would like to call a moment, a post traumatic stress moment, not necessarily a disorder, but it could be a disorder for long term, right? But just for this moment, for the all intents and purposes of this conversation, just honoring that moment, right? Where something is stressing you or bringing you, angst or anxiety or depression or fear or hurt or pain. So when we talk about those triggers, we notice that that word is becoming more and more used because we are now able to name those things that are happening within us and around us. And when we name it, when we know it, it gives us a better opportunity to fix it, to address it, to get help for it, to go to community. A closed mouth does not get fed. So to be able to say, this is what is wrong, I'm not really sure what I need, but I am coming to you, community, so that you can help me on this healing journey. So when we talk about triggers, it's not necessarily, oh, stop using that word. It's overrated. It's overused. If that's a trigger for you, baby, then let's talk about it. Let's heal from it. Let's deal with those triggers. And it came up a lot. I did not watch the Netflix show Malcolm and Marie, Eddie. No, just kidding. But it was very emotional for some. It was very triggering for others who have been in relationships with people who just haven't treated them so nicely. It may have been a domestic violence relationship that was brought up, or it may have just been, not just, it may have been people who have not treated one nicely and was very aggressive and assertive and demeaning and degrading at times. And that brought up some things like, whoa, that reminds me of that relationship. And that's really not a space where I want to go. That's not where I want to be. I thought I dealt with that. So now I have to relive it and get some new tools to now deal with the newfound triggers that I am experiencing, right? Um, yeah, so that word trick. Hey, Amber, I love you and miss you dearly as well. Thank you for joining. So, when we talk about triggers, it's really about how we deal with those triggers and having the wherewithal or the strength or even the willingness to deal with those triggers, to be honest about those triggers, to be willing to go to someone or to community or to therapy. Oftentimes in our culture, in the Black diaspora, we don't look too kindly upon therapy, and that does us a disservice because then we end up sitting in the pain, and then the pain manifests and festers and it grows, and then we end up taking it out not only on ourselves but on those of our beloveds and those people around us, and we're not sure why we're so angry or why did we lash out at this person, and it's because we didn't deal with certain triggers, certain layers of trauma that we need to address and need to deal with, right? And there's so many things that can trigger you. It could be a song, it could be a place, it could be a word, it could be a TV show. It could be so many things that'll just cause that trigger. Or even for someone who's in the process of healing from a diagnosis, a hospital can be triggering. Or, you know, a doctor or things like that. It could be anything that trigger. It's your trigger, right? Because Audre Lorde says if I don't define myself for myself, if I don't identify my own triggers, then I will be eaten alive and crunched into other people's fantasies. They will begin to define my triggers for me and then tell me how to respond and behave. And that is triggering. That may make matters even worse because I don't know what that trigger is. And now I got somebody else telling me how I should be, how I should respond. Men don't cry. Women, you got to be strong. Strong black women trope. You got to be this. You got to be that. What's up, Dr. Falami in the building? Thank you for joining. So you got to define it, name it, in order to give you that freedom toward liberation from that said thing, right? If I allow my trigger of being a survivor, domestic violence survivor, I may not leave my home, or I may not be healthy enough because I'm so stressed and I'm looking around and I'm paranoid and I'm wise. Don't get it twisted. We got to be wise. um, Thinking about, going to chemo or being in a hospital setting reminds me of the challenging times that I had during my diagnosis and my process of healing. That might be triggering, but I also learned at the same time to turn that trigger into a reminder, and a reminder not only of that trigger but the resilience that happened, the ancestors that showed up, the prayers that came, the community that was there. So the trigger wasn't necessarily me sinking deep in that trigger, but that trigger also reminded me of the beauty that was around me in the midst of my most trying time. So if we can learn to look beyond what we're seeing and what beyond what we're feeling, not past it, like not, just jumping over the healing process, but we're envisioning healing, right? So we can journey toward healing. We're envisioning freedom so we could journey toward freedom. So we're looking beyond that so we know the path that we can go on to help us to move toward healing and wholeness. So identifying those triggers, they may be shameful, quite embarrassing, and we got to build a trust in community that surpasses that shame and that guilt, because in some cases, our silence will kill us and not afford us an opportunity to build community of healing. When I moved to Denver in 2009, I didn't have the community that I had when I left. The divine, my God, the ancestors attracted me to people that became a part of my huge village, not of any doing solely on my own, but I had to be in alignment with spirit in order to then attract those that would bring me life, that would speak life, that would support me, that would sacrifice for me, that would ride or die with me, that would be with me, that would roll with me. And so that community, because I wanted it and I needed it, and I knew what I needed after a while. It took some hurt, it took some pain, it took some frustration. Come through village for sure, Doc. For sure, Angela. Come through village. But I had to be open for that, because if I had closed my center, if I had closed my essence, then that community may not have been attracted to me. It's the law of attraction, right? We speak positive things of what we want, not necessarily what we don't want, because the universe doesn't recognize positive and negative. So if we say what we don't want, we gonna get that as well, right? Hey, Miss Odessa, good to see you. Keeping you and the family in prayer as always. I love you dearly. So another trigger example that I wanted to raise up for today before we go toward go talk about our theme for today, destiny, right? It's my Rosa Parks shirt because every day is Black History. Every day is Black History is for everybody because we've built this country from the bottom up. Another broadcast. So one of the triggers, I had a friend who passed away a few days ago, a couple of days ago. Young sister, we were about the same age. She was diagnosed with cancer, a different type of cancer, and she died. And I was numb. I was numb, and then I began to pray for her son, her only child, pray for her closest friends and family. I considered her a friend. We didn't talk every day, but when we did connect every once in a while, it was always so beautiful. She was a beautiful spirit with a beautiful smile, and a beautiful countenance. Um, and I was just numb for a minute. And then I thought about all the beautiful things about her and how now she has become a part of the ancestors, leaving a legacy where her beauty and magic can just spread even further than her physical being at the time. And so that trigger for me then became a moment of love, a moment of remembrance. I think it was Reverend Habersham was talked about grief being a form of love, an act of love. So I was able to grieve. Grieving is not a bad thing, beloved. See, white thought and white supremacy, they'll have you thinking that grieving or feeling the loss of something is a negative thing because they always have to win. They always have to have the power. So grief is losing their power. Grief is actually feeling something in their heart and in their gut. So let's hold on to our culture, right? We talked about this a few episodes ago about cancel culture. They want to cancel our culture because we are so strong and so amazing. And we feel what we feel. And we survived so much together as community. So when I lost my friend to this side of life, I cried. I thought about myself and my journey. And then I grieved. And I gave myself permission to grieve. I gave myself permission to be sad. Yeah. So if we can give ourselves permission to do that, to release, and then making sure whether it's one person or an entire village that will be able to then pour back into you. You know, God will pour back into you if you release to God. If you just lament and let it go, God will then pour back into you that which what you need to survive, to move forward, to keep it going. And then there are some, it takes longer than others, right? Because the trauma is so deep and so long. It'll take time to kind of, it's like peeling the onion, you know? Okay, this trauma. Okay, this layer of trauma. Okay, let's get to the core of this here. Because I want to get to my essence, the beauty that God created in me, the God in me. I want to get to my essence of who I be and how I'm to show up in this world. And sometimes, you know, how we show up comes with some challenges. Hey, Tammy, my beautiful niece, no worries. I'm just glad you're here. Glad you're here. So let's talk about destiny. The quote that I have up is the choices you make in life ultimately determine your destiny. And it's not to say, again, it is very white, it is very individual to say you are the mistake or you are a mistake. No, you've made a mistake and you have an opportunity to turn that thing around because the choices you make ultimately determine your destiny. Choices. So if I've made a bad choice or a not so wise choice, I have an opportunity with the tools, with the village, with God, with my friends, with my beloveds, to turn that thing around and to be able to walk toward my destiny. Because there are different roads to your destiny. There's just not one linear, again, very white. You do this, you go to school, you get a good job, you invest, you make a lot of money, and that just doesn't happen that way in our world because of marginalization and racism and oppression and classism. So unfortunately, it's not as linear. So in order for me to get from point A to Z, it may not be the succession of the alphabet. You know, we may have to jump to D, go back to B for a minute, but we're going to get to Z because that's our destiny. The God in us, the divine in us, the beauty in us, the brilliance in us, being co creators, being resilient, having the strength and the wherewithal to be resistant, right? So in our destiny, let us not think that a choice that we made, um, the choice that I made to be a teenage mother definitely spoke to my destiny because I say this all the time. My daughter saved my life. So that was a part of my destiny. The world thought it was negative. The world thought it wasn't right. But I had parents that told me, okay, we're going to deal with this and we're going to be wise. And this child is not going to suffer because you don't have the tools to be a parent because I didn't. And my parents stepped in and helped me, in those formative years of my daughter, which then spoke life into my destiny. It made me want to live differently. It made me want to live for something greater than what I was doing because I didn't love myself. So I had someone who loved me unconditionally, and I was her mama. So I had to live and make different choices, and that ultimately determined my destiny. The choice to respond to having breast cancer, I could, you know, I could have made many other choices, right? I could have made the choice not to take treatment. I could have made the choice not to be on a clinical trial. I could have made the choice not to try to change my diet or exercise. I could have made a lot of different choices. I could have kept this a secret. I could have just said, you know what, I'm not telling anybody, which is fine as long as we are taking agency, right? And doing what is best for us, what is healing for us, having those cathartic moments so we can be poured back into. That is fine. Because I say this oftentimes, the road that I chose is not the road that everyone is afforded an opportunity to choose. There are people who can't even dress themselves and go through challenges, and it's hard for them to see that light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, right? So it takes community to do that, and not many, no, I don't want to say not many. Some of us are not accustomed to being in community because community may have hurt us. Yikes. What happens when community hurts us? Who do we go to? How do we deal? How do we reconcile? How do we get what we need? Because healing happens in community, beloveds. So, what happens when community lets us down? What happens when we don't have the family that other people might have? My family has become very small. I don't have my parents, I don't have my grandparents, my aunts, uncles. What do you do when your circle starts to get smaller and smaller? But that does not mean that you are destined to suffer or suffer alone. I think it was again Audre Lorde, quoted by Dr. Emily Towns, that said, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So, beloveds, let's deal with the pain. Let's deal with the triggers and the trauma. Whether it's one confidant or 20 or a forum like this, let's deal with the pain and name it and name those triggers so that we don't have to suffer through this life. People would love to see us suffer. Racists, white supremacists, they would love to see us suffer. They are trying so hard to make us suffer. Whether it's taking away medical care or I don't know why they keep calling it a stimulus package, because people need that package to just eat or pay rent. Ain't nothing stimulating about being afraid of losing your home, or choosing, do I get medication or food, or do I put gas in the car to go this place, or do we eat? I mean, let's deal with that pain and name that pain together, whatever together looks like for you. Growing together. Hey, DG, hugs from Harlem. Ah, thank you for joining. So, yeah, let's build community. And I'll close with this since DG just popped on. My DG had a cancer support group for quite some time. And that was the first, I told the village how long I've been involved with breast cancer awareness, or cancer awareness for so long. And DG had a cancer support group, and that's how I was introduced um, to community in a bigger way, in a different way, in a way of healing. And that's really where I learned for myself the concept that healing happens in community, because I had that experience. I had that guide. I had those mothers in her circle who embraced me from day one. You know, I'm the T and T and T, right? So we experience healing in community, and healing in community is about being transparent. And I watch these beautiful black people just be transparent on their journey, and just love one another. And that's why it's so important, whatever your again, I don't want to shame you for not being a part of a community out there somewhere. That worked for me. I was a preacher, associate pastor. I built I was attracted, the large community was attracted to me. That doesn't work for everybody. But a community can be just your three or four. Your three, like a cord, right? A three-strand cord that is so strong. So whatever it is, I encourage you today, one, to name those triggers, to name that pain. Two, to realize that healing happens in community. Three, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Four, your destiny, yeah, your choices will then lead to what your destiny will be, but you have choices with an S. So if you make a choice that is not the best choice in the world, you have a chance to turn that around. That's why people who come out of jail and prison, you have so many organizations that are trying to help them redefine who they are, because they have been dehumanized and treated badly, and the list goes on and on and on. And to be able to come out to a community and not feel so alone, and to tell to be to for someone to tell them you are worthy, you are a human being worthy of love, worthy of sacrifice, worthy of being. You are divine. And sometimes we just need to hear that as we are going through the process of pain, so in the process of healing from the pain. And that suffering is optional. If we are suffering, beloved, let us reflect on that, and let us reflect why, and let us call on the ancestors. Let us call on the divine. Let us call on the divine in our community or in our beloveds to move forward so that we don't have to suffer. And if we are healing, we know that healing ain't easy, and it may require some pain, right? It may require some pain and some discomfort, but knowing that your village, your family, your tribe, your circle is holding you up. Like Aaron and Hur held up Moses' arms when Moses was getting tired. They were there just to hold his arms up so that we can continue the journey. So let us hold each other's arms up so that we can continue to the journey, so that we can continue to change this country around. I see it, and I hope that we will continue in all that we do, whether we're educators, shout out to all the educators, we're on the front lines in the grocery store, whatever it is, use your voice, use your divine voice to make change in the spaces you are, including the space in here, so that you might be healed, so that you might be able to make the choice, right? That in life, that ultimately determines your destiny and not letting anybody else determine that for you. I love you, beloveds. Thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for just being a part of my village and my tribe. I am my tribe. I am because you are. My healing ain't easy, and I'm so grateful. I have a host of beautiful, beautiful, magnificent, divine people that continue to hold me up and hold it down for me and keep it going. Um, yeah. When you have community holding up your arms, victory will be won. Tammy, I love you too. I love all of you. Share this. If somebody needs some encouragement, please share this. If someone is really going through some triggering moments, share this. If someone is going through some pain and just trying to get to that process of healing, share this. This is a love language. This is a language that we share that is beyond white supremacy and white culture. Ubuntu, that's right, Ubuntu. I am because you are, therefore I am. Thank you. I love you. I'm Tawana, your host and your curator of Tuesday with Tawana. What's up, Jackie? Oh my gosh. Thank you. She says, remaining in prayer and confidence. Love you. I love you too, beloved. And with that, I'm out. Share this video with those that you feel, or think need encouragement. And prayerfully, I will see you next Tuesday. I'm out. Thank you for joining. Later.